All right. 3, 2, 1. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at in the U.S. and around the world. Welcome to Baseball Outside the Box. Thanks for joining us. And I am your host, Pete Caliendo. Again, special thanks to everybody in the U.S. and around the world. We're in over 100 countries. We want to thank you for sharing the show with all your friends and relatives and everybody in the game of baseball. And we really appreciate it. Please do us a favor. Email us, caliendo19@gmail.com. If you have any questions about the show, want to hear any special guests, anything that we can help with, please let us know. We're here to help because you've been doing a great job. And also special thanks to ESPN Honolulu. Aloha, everybody. And continue to share the show in Hawaii. What a great, great place. And love to have all the listeners in Hawaii listening to the show. So again, special thank you to all, and special thanks to Brian Crocker, our producer with the Lineup Media Group. All right, folks. Well, I know you're going to come after me. You're going to send me some emails because here we go again. Another Italian on the show. This is not.
I'm going to turn the light on.
You're good. Another Italian American on the show. It's a coincidence. I go after some really good people, all nationalities, obviously, but it's great to have great Italian Americans on the show. And this one great college baseball coach, Joe Jordano. Listen, all you got to do is, get some of his notes and give you an idea. Paul Maneri, the compliments he gives this guy. Tim Corbin, we both have been on the show. You're talking about great college coaches giving him some outstanding compliments. He's got 945 career wins, University of Pittsburgh. He's the 25th winningest active college coach in the NCAA history. He was with University of Pittsburgh Panthers 21 years, 70 players in pro ball, 6 coach of the year awards, 3 Hall of Fames, and by the way, the best Hall of Fame, the National Italian American Sports Hall of Fame, who I used to work with when I was a young kid at 21 years old here in the headquarters in Chicago. But let's not waste any time. He's got a great resume. Currently the coach of the black team for the IMG Academy in Florida, one of the famous academies around the world. Let's welcome our good friend Joe Jordano. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing fantastic, Pete. Thanks for having me.
Hey, no, this is great. Like I said before we talked, I listened to you on the ABCA podcast. Outstanding. And by the way, before we started, I said Italian Americans, I'm having my espresso because I think I need this for this show, just for you.
I love it. Thank you.
Hey, listen, let's let our audience know you a little bit, get to know you. Just some real quick questions. Obviously, I'm going to start with the Italian American part. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania, which is right on the water. Right on the water.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Erie Tech at the time. It's changed names a few times in the last couple of years, but it was a great place and met some great people, and a lot of those guys are still my friends today.
Parents born in Italy or grandparents?
My grandparents were born in a little town just north of Naples, in the Ricali. Ricali is the name. And from what I understand, we still have family there. And I intend to look them up when I get the opportunity to go.
Hey, you been to Italy?
I have not, believe it or not.
We got to get you there one way or another. I take teams every year, select teams just for fun, for the cultural experience, to Italy. Been lucky, obviously, was raised there, speak the language. But again, it's a great country, great everything in that country, man. One day, hopefully, what about a goal about living there one day? Maybe, half a year.
You know what? My wife and I have talked about that, kind of slowing things down. Things are obviously interesting here. And what you're doing there, if I would sit down and be able to have a couple espressos a day, nice Italian bread, little antipasti, I'd be a happy kid. Maybe on certain days have a nice cigar afterwards and a glass of wine. Are you kidding me?
Boy, that's the life. I agree with you, man. You're talking my stuff there, man. I love that. What about when you grew up? What'd you want to be when you were growing up, a young kid?
I grew up in a blue collar environment, and Erie Tech was a technical school, and I was learning the trade of being an electrician. And interestingly, the vice principal at our school was a alum of Westminster College, which is a very small college about halfway between Erie and Pittsburgh. And he would try and get all the athletes at the school to go down to Westminster. And how it ended up is he called me and a dear friend of mine who was a quarterback for our football team, Chris Loader, and said, take a ride down there. And I arrived on campus and I came home and I said to my parents, I said, I could still be an electrician someday, but I kind of like this college thing. And the rest is history. It's been a good ride.
Yeah, but it sounds like it's been an awesome ride. And by the way, all of a sudden now you start going in the coaching direction. You know, there's always that one time. I know for me, I was a Mickey Young baseball school. I was 15. I grew up with my mentor, Dick Birmingham, from Springfield, Missouri.
Great coach.
Yeah, you know Dick.
Legend.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
sure.
you know, I was with him for 40 years. You know, rest in peace, Dick, man. What a great person. You know, and my life changed there because, you know, like anybody else, you know, I had dreams of something else. But all of a sudden got into coaching. Where did it start for you?
Interestingly, out of college, I thought I had a shot to play professionally, and then ultimately I did have a chance, and that's a story for another another
show.
time. But yeah, absolutely, that's a good one. But how I actually got into it, when I graduated from college, I went down to Pittsburgh and I was a sales rep. Started in sales for Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. And about a year and a half into it, my father got a very dismal prognosis. And I decided that I can work my whole life. I only have one dad. And as you know, the Italians are so close to their families.
Yep.
And that means everything to us. So I decided to go back home. And that summer, the Mercier's college job opened up. I was 23 years old, you know, playing in the local municipal league and enjoying that. And I got the job. And so at age 23, I became the head coach.
Wow.
At Mercier's College. And ironically, the reason I went home was because I wanted to spend time with my father. And thank God, the diagnosis was wrong. And he lived for 27 years past that. And interesting point here, Pete, is when I heard the news about my father, from that point forward for 27 years, wherever I was at, I called my dad every night. And because I told my mom, because people have asked me, you know, wow, that's, 27 years. And I'm telling you, I didn't miss a day.
Wow.
And I said, because I don't want to wake up in the morning and regret not talking to him the night before. And thank God he lived till he was 87 and was a tremendous athlete, very well respected, and worked for the city of Erie for another paisano, Mayor Lou Tullio, who was a 6-term mayor of Erie, 24 years. As you know, Erie is a very strong Italian American population, and to this day, St. Paul's Church, where I was received my baptism, first communion, confession, confirmation, was all there. And to this day, they have the St. Paul's Festival, which is one of the most fantastic 3 days you could imagine. On 16th and Walnut in Erie, Pennsylvania, pretty special. But that got me back home. It got me started in coaching, and the rest is history. I thank God that it happened that way. Because I'm not sure if I would have got back into baseball or even got into baseball if it wasn't for that family situation that was obviously a defining moment in my life.
Yeah, what a great story about your dad. And for young coaches out there, keep your parents close to you, because they're the ones who love you. They're the ones who are honest with you. They're the ones who support you all the time. You can trust them 100%.
No
That's an
doubt.
awesome story, Joe. And I'm thinking 23 years old, head coach. This is a great learning experience. And I think you can lend a lot of experience to a lot of young people who are either getting into coaching, as assistants or head coaches. When you were 23, go back a little bit and talk about the things that, we all make mistakes at at every age. It doesn't matter what the age is, but especially at 23, you're going to make some mistakes, you're going to learn a lot. What were the major mistakes, the learning experiences you had that you can share
Sure.
with others?
Well, the one challenge that I had was at 23 years old. On my summer team in the Glenwood League, that group of players, some of them played for me at Mercyhurst. So here I am as the head coach, and I'm friends with some of my players. So that was a challenge. But the one thing I did day one, I said, listen, when we're on the summer field, we're teammates. When we're on the Mercyhurst field, I'm the boss, and there's not going to be any challenges to that. And I'll tell you, that was a learning experience in itself. I think, again, the type of personality that I have has always been one that takes charge, but embraces the environment, the circumstance that I'm in, and I'm going to make the best of it. At both Mercyhurst and it may be hard to believe, but at the University of Pittsburgh, we had some enormous challenges for a baseball program. We didn't have an on-campus facility at Mercyhurst, and it was a challenge. But again, we didn't focus on those things. And I think what I learned when I got involved as a coach was, there's no testing the waters. You had to dive in. You had to control what you could control, and make sure that your message was simple and clear, and you were able to communicate that with the guys that you're leading. And we built a program that, the last 4 years, we made it as high as number 3 in the country in Division II baseball. We won 2 conference championships because we were an independent for 8 years. And we would go anywhere and play anyone. And I developed some great relationships over that time. But specifically what you asked, I think some of the mistakes I made was what my vision of what a coach is supposed to do, rather than being more true to what I believed in. I think I started my career as maybe in the mode of Billy Martin. And as
Another
as
Italian, by the way.
That's right. That's right. I had the pleasure of meeting him at a sports banquet in Erie. And it was one of the thrills of my young career, for sure. And then, as you know, any coach, you have to continue to evolve, and you have to continue to develop. And I think as I got into my career more, I transitioned to another Italian, Joe Torre type, more, we're going to give you the tools to succeed. My expectation is you're going to be the best that you can be, and you're going to give not only yourself, but your teammates and me everything you got. That's the assumption. And let's play the game hard. And at the end of it, win or lose, we'll analyze it, make adjustments, and move on. But yeah, there were a couple of times, again, you talk about some of these defining moments. I got to give you a quick story. When we were at Mercyhurst, Gannon University is located in downtown Erie, and that's run by the Diocese of Erie. And Mercyhurst, we were a Mercy school, Sisters of Mercy. And it was obviously two Catholic schools within a couple of miles of each other. There was quite a rivalry there. And we were playing Gannon at Jerriott Park at the time. I believe it's UPMC Park. It's the minor league facility for the AA team in Erie. And we had a runner on third base, Gannon had a runner on third base. It was a 0-0 ball game. We played 2 7-inning games. This was the first game. And my catcher, not going to mention his name, but he let a ball go off his glove that he should have caught. And the run scored, and we lost the game. It was the bottom of the 7th. And I was furious. And I come into the dugout, and he's sitting there with his head down. There was nobody else in the dugout because I always respected the fact that I didn't want to embarrass a player in front of the team. And he's sitting there, and I look at him, and I made some aggressive remark to him. And he looked up at me. He just turned his head, and he looked up, and he said, "Coach, do you really think I tried to do that?"
Wow.
And it was a moment that stopped me in my tracks. And at that point, I became a better coach because at that point, again, that's where I kind of embraced the theory of these are good kids, and they work hard for me every day. They're giving me everything they got. And there are going to be times where we all fail. Certainly, I've made mistakes in game, out of game, off the field, on the field, whatever. We all do. But it was one of those moments that I felt made me a much better coach and gave me an understanding of when to push, when to pull back, when to hug a kid, when to leave them alone, but always respect the fact that they're giving you everything they got, and you need to understand that, and whatever will be, will be. So again, going back to those, the question of what did I do wrong? What did I do right? You evolve as a coach. You can take characteristics of coaches that you respect. You mentioned Dick. I'm sure there's a lot of your DNA in coaching that comes from those guys. You mentioned
Absolutely.
Coach Maneri, Coach Maestri. You watch these guys, and I still keep in touch with Mike Martin, and Mike Fox at North Carolina, and there's so many of these guys that you watch how they operate and you watch how they conduct their business, and you take pieces of that. It's like a good recipe, right? It's constantly tweaking, add a little bit of this, a little bit of that, maybe take a little bit off, and you come out with what you're all about. But ultimately, Pete, I was just having a conversation with one of our younger coaches here today, and I said, I always took the responsibility of how I impact another person, especially from a coaching perspective, and give that some reverence, because we as coaches, as you know, probably spend more time in the formidable years of a young person's life, whether it be me here at the high school or academy level, but certainly in my 31 years as a college coach, you impact them at times and spend more time with them than their parents do. And I think that if that's the core of your values and principles, you can't go wrong, because you can always look in the mirror and say, I gave everything I had today. I was fair, and I can live with that.
It's interesting. I love the analogy of the pizza. That's a great analogy. A little here, a little there. We got to add that in
Right.
there. But here we are. You're 23 years old, and you mentioned your parents. Or you're basically a parent for your kids. At 23, what did you take away from your parents or coaches, that you had when you were young? Because at 23, that's not easy starting a team. And you had to learn something, whether it be how to handle human beings, how to handle players, whatever it was. What did you take from maybe somebody back then?
Sure. I had my high school coach, Rich Matlack, was awesome. And he, just the way that he approached it, Tom Grandinetti was one of the assistant coaches, became very close with him. Joe Cook, who was my Legion coach, very impactful guy. And then Coach Renninger, when I went to college. All those people I had taken pieces of how they approach the game, approach people. But I think the strongest influence, obviously, was my father and my mom. My dad taught me a couple of very basic rules that I still use today and use them on my teams. And if I had my children with me and you said, what are the 3 rules? Like that, they'd run them off. And outside of God and family, be the best you can be every day. Do the right thing. I think every kid knows what's right and what's wrong. You have to do the right thing. And lastly, treat others the way you want to be treated. You think of those 3 rules, and my relationship, Pete, with a custodian was the same as my relationship with the president or chancellor of the university. And I took a lot of pride in that and still do to this day. And I think when I had that as my core, as a young person growing up, and had my mom and dad holding me accountable to those values, it was maybe a little bit easier for me to communicate and to show those things to now at age 23, trying to teach players that were just a couple of years younger than me about how important those values are. And it's pretty cool. Again, when talking this morning, the messages, the emails, the phone calls that I get to this day from kids that I coached at Mercyhurst, and seeing them as fathers now, is so there's no value, there's no monetary value you can put on that, and that can never be taken away from me. And that's why I do what I do, and that's why every coach should be in it for. It's not the financial gain, not necessarily the wins and losses, which they're important, but ultimately to develop people and to guide them on their way after they go on to their respective careers. When I was at Pitt, I would always say to every family that was in front of me that we're going to do everything that we can do to develop your son as a baseball player and maximize, maximize the opportunities that he has in the game of baseball. But ultimately, and I'm telling you as parents and you as the prospective student athlete, I'm going to prepare you for the day after you play your last baseball game. That's most important. And that was a very successful guiding principle for me. And I tell these kids here at the Academy the same thing. And again, Pete, you know it, when you get that true, genuine acknowledgement of how you impacted the student athlete, there's no greater feeling.
Joe, great stuff. And I kind of compared to, when we tell young coaches, listen, stick to the fundamentals, do those really well, and the good things will come, right? I mean, if you're worried about money, if you're worried about wins, worry about the stuff you were just talking about, and then the good stuff will come eventually. You just got to be patient, right?
Oh, there's no question. I mean, this is such a tough game. And, you see, when I was watching my sons going through sports, and we've seen it across baseball in the United States. Less and less players are playing baseball. And you think about it, as soon as you get into a thrown baseball at a young age, that you have to be pretty coordinated and somewhat athletic to have success at a young age. And I think kids get so frustrated in this day and age of everything that needs to be instant. Mm-hmm. It needs to be right now. And we're in a game that you take 10,000 swings, you might get this much better. Right. You take 10,000 ground balls, you get this much better. But if you don't take those, you're as good as you're going to be. And it's a game of failure. We've heard that our whole lives, but it's true. And it's the purest of team sports. I always like to use the analogy if I'm a basketball coach and I got MJ on my team, every time that my team has possession of the ball, it's going to be in his hands. If I am a football coach and I have a Tom Brady, who, it's nice that he's down here in Tampa.
Yeah.
But I've been a lifelong Steeler fan. I can tell you that. So, but every snap, he's got an opportunity to make a play. And in baseball, as coaches, we look at a lineup and say, well, this guy is not going to beat us. And I pitch around him. So he's only as good as the guy in front of him and the guy behind him. And it's when you are trying to connect at bats together, what sport is more reliant on every piece to the puzzle moving forward, and it's tough to do, Pete. We've seen it. We've seen kids that have great talent, but poor work ethic. They have an unbelievable work ethic, but don't have the skill set. And the physical development and maturity of a person certainly helps in execution of the fundamentals of baseball in all aspects. So you have to wait until you get to that point where it might click. It happens sooner for some, it happens later for many others. I didn't hit my first home run until Legion Ball after high school, and I became a fairly consistent power hitter. That's what I was known for. But my physical development happened very late in my high school career going into college, whereas other guys that I played with, had beards when they were 12, 13 years old.
Right.
So obviously they threw the ball harder, they could hit the ball further, and they were stronger. In our game, there's so many pieces to that puzzle and so many stages to that. It's a matter of developing a great work ethic, understanding the fundamentals of your swing, understanding the fundamentals of your delivery, the steps to fielding and throwing a baseball and running the bases. And then when those pieces fall in line and the physicality and maturity catch up, and you're repeating those steps along the way, that's going to be the player that you want on your team. That's the player that's going to have sustained success.
Absolutely. Hey, folks on Facebook, if you got any questions, just type them in the comment section. Thanks for joining us, boy. We got people from all over the world on here. Really appreciate it. Hey, Joe, you mentioned failure. Interesting. Now, 23 years old, you had to fail a little bit. If you did, when you failed, whatever times were you thinking, maybe this isn't for me? And how did you keep going? How did you keep it going as far as staying in coaching? Because again, when we're talking about finances, you got to survive, not a lot of money early on. How did you deal with that?
Well, the first thing was I lived in the basement of my parents' house. So that's number one. Number two, I never focused on the money. It was coaching was always, once I got into it, it bit me hard. I loved the cyclical environment of building a team, starting a team, seeing it through to the end, and then doing it all over again. There was, I don't think there was ever a time. And the day we got there, I inherited a team that was like 9-30. And in 1 year, we turned it around. I think we're 19-17, within the year. I will tell you, the first games that I ever coached in was the fall of 1987 I got the job in June. And back then, you played a lot of other teams in the fall. My first trip was to Point Park University, which, as you know, is a unbelievable NAIA program out of Pittsburgh. And I went down there and we got 10 run twice. Drove home, went to bed, got up the next day, drove up to Olean and played St. Bonaventure. Got 10 run twice again. So we had 2 trips, 0 for 4, and probably were outscored 105-2. I think maybe sometime that weekend, I might have said, "What the hell am I doing?"
Right.
But it was okay. Again, going back to what I said in my opening comments, embrace where you're at, know the circumstance, and go out there and work hard, and we're going to get better. And we did. And, from that point on, there was always, there's nothing like being a part of, coaching groups. The ABCA convention every year was something that we look forward to, and I still do. Baseball guys are real, and they're good people. And so I always enjoyed being a part of that environment, which I don't think is why at any point I said, well, should I be doing something else?
Yeah.
So it's been in me, and it's still in me to this day.
Yeah, and I agree with you, man. Once it's in you, you got that bug. You're done. There's a man.
That's
My mom.
right.
I know my mom was still, God bless her. She passed away a couple of years ago, but she was always, I think, up till she died, she was still asking me, "What do you do? I mean, what's your job?" Because an Italian mom, they want you to grow up to be a doctor, lawyer, attorney, whatever.
Or a priest.
Or a priest, exactly. But it's in your blood. But she, and I know, I'm sure, just like you, my parents supported me in everything I did, 100%, and that really helped. You mentioned young people want things fast. Well, also young coaches sometimes, and I'm not, putting everybody in one bucket here, but young coaches want things quick. Here you are, you're having a college program, and then all of a sudden University of Pittsburgh comes. Now, did that just happen? You were focused on what you were doing, or were you looking to go to another college? Recommendation also to coaches out there, how to handle that.
Sure. Basically, I had, during my first few years at Mercyhurst, I decided to pursue my master's degree in the sport management program at Slippery Rock, which are about 60 some miles south of Erie. I had a full-time job, obviously, as baseball coach. I started my second duty at Mercyhurst. I was the cooperative education coordinator for the hospitality management program. So that was half the day.
Wow.
And then I became the assistant athletic director that did all of the fundraising, all of the game management, and I oversaw media relations at Mercyhurst. So I had all those responsibilities, and for 3 consecutive falls, twice a week, I would drive to Slippery Rock University to take classes and ultimately get my master's degree in education, athletic administration. So, if you really want something, it's going to take time, and you have to go get it. But as a part of the master's, I helped start the sports management major at Mercyhurst, and I started teaching 2 courses in that major. It was the last 2 years that I was at Mercyhurst, and when the Pitt job opened, I decided to apply for it, and I interviewed for the position, and then it was probably a good 6-8 weeks after the interview that I got the phone call. One of the great days of my life. Carol Sprague was the individual, fellow Slippery Rock graduate. Great person. She lives in Florida, as a matter of fact, right now. She's retired. But she gave me a call, and that was tough because I didn't arrive on campus at Pitt until late November. The call came early November, and so we at Mercyhurst, we were coming off a 40-8 season, lost in the regionals, and had the majority of the team back. And I was teaching 2 courses. I'd walk my dog. You know, right outside the house was my campus. My wife and I, who will celebrate 31 years of marriage August 3rd, you know, we walked. We got married in the chapel, had our reception, 400 plus people, as you know. For the Italians, that's a small wedding.
Yes.
And we ultimately walked to our house, you know, after our wedding. She's been a champ. My wife, Michelle, has been a blessing to me, and, you know, coaches' wives have it very difficult, and because we're always on the go, and we're recruiting and with our teams, etc. But you know, I had it pretty good. I had a nice golf club that I was Lawrence Park Golf Club, beautiful track, 10 minutes from my house. I was teaching 2 courses. I was an assistant AD. I had a baseball program. I'll be honest with you, if the Pitt job never happened, I'd probably still be at Mercyhurst today. You know, I mean, it was great. But I decided to take the job, and it was probably a very good decision for me.
Absolutely. You know, and I wanted to say, because you mentioned your wife, hopefully when this airs either on the podcast or ESPN Honolulu, hopefully she's not going to listen to this part, because I'm about to get you in trouble.
Okay.
But first of all, because I won't talk to you then, but congratulations on 31 years on August
Thank you.
3rd. August 4th and 5th, I will be in Italy. Boy, that would be a great anniversary gift for your wife. Wouldn't it? Take her to Italy, and maybe it can't happen because of the academy you got scheduled, or maybe next year, you know, that'd be a great trip.
There's no question. She's been hounding me for quite
Gotta
some
do it.
time. There was this little joke that I use, and I think you'd appreciate it. My dad told me this. You know, they'd start talking about anniversary. He said, yeah, I took my wife to Italy for her 25th anniversary. She loved it. And my wife asked me after the trip, or before we jumped on the plane, what are we going to do for 50? He said, I'm going to come back and pick you up.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe,
love it.
take us.
We would love to go.
Yeah, and take us. You know what I'd love. I think it'd be good. Take us through that interview process, because here we're a big time.
Sure.
I mean, this is Division I school. It's got to be a pretty tough interview process.
Well, it was, you know, again, we talk about preparation, and all of the things that we talked about earlier in this conversation were things that I was passionate about, I believed in, and I executed it every day. So when you look at if you're going to try and convince somebody that I'm the person for the position, it's very easy to communicate that with them if you've been living this to that point in your life. If you go in there and you start trying to make things up, or trying to present what they want to hear, rather than who you are and who you are and what you do and how you do it. And I obviously, it resonated with the athletic director and the rest of the committee that I met with, and it was a full day. And again, it was a challenge, but again, for me, I wanted it, and I was going to make sure that I left nothing in question. So, I mentioned about looking in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
When I got back into my car to drive home, I looked in the mirror and said, "Good job." And again, whether I got the job or not, I delivered the message that I wanted to deliver. And I obviously always very professional. There was no sense of cockiness or arrogance. It's all about showing somebody this is who you're going to get 6 months from now, not just in this interview. And that's where you build relationships and you build integrity throughout your career. I said something, Pete, and I think you'll like this. If I say to you, "Oh yeah, he's that guy," what do you think when you say, he's that guy"?
Yeah, not
Yeah,
good.
right? Okay. Well, this came to me about a week ago. I was working with John Ford Griffin, who's our hitting coordinator here at the Academy. And he was referring to one of the participants, and he goes, he's very close to being that guy. And I walked up to the young man. He's a great kid. Again, they at a young age they don't know yet. And I went up to him and I said, I've been in this game a while, and do you really want to be that guy, or do you want to be the guy?
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of smiled and he goes, "I think I want to be the guy."
You got it.
And I said, right answer. So again, when you're looking at developing as a coach, and as a reputation, and your integrity and your professionalism, that has to mean something to you. You have to give the impression, which needs to be a direct reflection of truly who you are and what you're all about. And you need to go out there every day and understand that's your responsibility to deliver that every day. And that's how you build a reputation. It's not about necessarily who you know or what jersey you're wearing, because coaches in this industry, they know who that guy is, and they know who the guys are. So the advice is, be true to who you are. You'll probably evolve into something even better in the future, but never sacrifice your integrity never sacrifice your professionalism, and never sacrifice or make a decision that's going to put you in a compromising spot that may affect your future. The only time I ever crossed that line is with umpires.
Yeah.
But you know what? Any game I ever got tossed, and there were plenty, I always made it a point to say, hey, that was just the heat of the game. And just want to say, hope everything's good. So
Yeah, I think it was the heat of the game and the combination of being Italian. I get that part. When you put those two together, a little bit of bombshell once in a while. That happens.
it happens.
Hey, we're going to take some questions here in a minute from, I got one from Randall Arms. I'll tell you about him. Great guy. Before we do, all the years you've been in coaching, I'm sure you've been asked this several times now, but it'd be interesting to get your perspective. The game's changing, the players are changing, kids are changing. Where are we at overall? What was the process that you went through with kids that, that you had to make an adjustment, and why'd you have to make those adjustments?
Well, I think again, I've been at the academy now for a little over 3 years, and coached for 4 seasons, but been here about 3 years. I think the game at its core has not changed. We're still trying to score runs.
Yeah.
We're still trying to get people out. We're still trying to play clean defensively. We're trying to take advantage of people on the bases, and playing a good team game. So the fundamental strategy, in my opinion, it's not changed. I think the development piece is changing every day. How hard can I throw? What's my exit velocity? What's my launch angle? What are my Rapsodo numbers? I joked with a guy the other day. I said, my cousin is Vinny Rapsodo. I don't know if he's involved in that or not. But my point there is, if you break that down a little bit, Pete, numbers are good, but statistics can say anything you want them to say. Mm-hmm. I might have a kid that's 101 off the bat, but he can't hit water if he fell out of a boat. Mm-hmm. A specific aspect or element of some of those things are really not important. I think using technology, and certainly here at the academy, I would challenge anyone that has more technology and access to anything state of the art than IMG. It's really phenomenal. But the coaching staff that we have here, that's equally as impressive as well. They focus on, well, how do we get to that number rather than let's start at the number, because that process takes time. And if you have a poor swing, but it's generating, a big exit velocity, it says you're strong, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can hit. And a guy throwing 95 off the mound, but he walks 6 guys in an inning. So to me, once you develop repeatable delivery, repeatable swings, at that point, that's when the result of the metrics is most important. You go to the doctor, he says you have high blood pressure. Okay, well, why? And you have to take steps to make sure that you bring that down. It's the same thing. Your exit velocity is 80 miles an hour. Well, the reason is because you're you're disconnected with your body. It's not working together. You're out in front. You're pulling your front side. Your bat's dragging. Your hands are casting. All those things. So let's fix the process. The result takes care of itself. And then, as I said earlier, with that physical development, if you have the repeatable swing and you have the repeatable delivery, it's all going to fall into place. But if you're constantly chasing how hard am I throwing, or what's the ball coming off the bat, you're defeating the purpose. You've jumped to results rather than understanding how to get there. And that's a challenge nowadays. Like I said, it's like a video game mentality. You start a video game, you get blown up. Within the first 30 seconds, you hit reset, and you start over. Well, in our game, there's no reset button. You just struck out, and you're going to be due up in a half an hour. What adjustments are you going to make? Well, I don't know how to make those adjustments because I've been focused on how hard can I swing, right? So that's kind of my take on it.
Sure, that's great.
Just using the tools of today and putting them in the puzzle, and then taking the kid's God-given abilities and his skill set, and filling all of those in. That's when you arrive at a developed baseball player.
Yeah, Joe, on the show, we talk about it a lot, and it's interesting, at the young levels, it's a game of long-term development. And sometimes we, like you said, we take it a short term, right? We want it right now. And we just need to reach the younger coaches that are working with young kids, right? If this was all happening, what you're talking about at the young ages, now when they get to you, it becomes a little easier and you don't have to do much work. Now I'm going to jump to IMG, but we're going to stay with the development phase.
Sure.
Before I do, let me take Randall's question. Randall Arms is going to be the pitching coach for the Pakistan World Baseball Classic team.
I saw his. I think I connected with him through social media, and yeah, absolutely.
He's outstanding. He's passionate about the game. Talking about a person that's passionate. Here's his question. He said, "What would you say to a coach that finally got the call to professional baseball? Any words of encouragement, or maybe how to look, how to prepare for that, going from college or somewhere else to pro ball?"
Well, I've had the pleasure of developing friendships with a lot of coaches and skippers at the major league level. Clint Hurdle down here,
great guy.
John Russell is our field coordinator here at the academy. And when you have the ability to be around these guys and listen to them, it's like you and I talking right now. And I think goes back to those core values. Be who you are and be confident. And you've been doing this for quite some time. If you make that, as you're making that transition, obviously you're doing good things, and just stick to what got you there and make it better. Don't there's a quote out there: better's possible, good's not good enough. I'm learning every day. I listen to coaches, Andy Revel, one of the best young infield guys I've been around, also does a great job with hitting. I listen to him talking to our kids, JFG, John Ford Griffin from Florida State. You listen, you absorb. Roger Cedeno, played with the Dodgers and the Mets, is one of our outfield coordinators. As you know, Dave Turgeon.
Yep.
We got such a quality staff, and you listen to how they deliver. You listen to their message. And there might be a way that it's phrased. It might be a little bit different than the way you're packaging your message. But if you're able to communicate with and connect with more players at that level, that makes you a better coach, right? We're always learning, we're always evolving, we're always developing. We expect our players to develop. They should expect us to continue our development as well.
Joe, tell folks about IMG, the academy, because if I remember right, it started off as a tennis academy a long time ago, and man, they just exploded, done a great job.
Another Italian, Nick Bollettieri.
Yes, I should have mentioned that. You beat me to it.
Yeah, he's still around. He's amazing. Wow. Yeah, he's there's a little place that he eats lunch at, and had the opportunity to meet him, and signed a book for me, and just very approachable, great guy. He started this as the Nick Bollettieri Tennis Academy, and then IMG took over. As you know, IMG evolved from an agency. They were representing some of the top of the line movie stars, rock stars, athletes, etc. And they still do it. You know, it's a fantastic company. Our CEO, which is somebody you might want to have on the show, Tim Pernetti. Yeah, he was an AD up at Rutgers, worked for CBS and television. Great leader, great vision, great communicator. He's the CEO of IMG. We are a part of, our parent company is Endeavor, who owns the UFC professional bull riding tour. It's a massive entertainment group, and our campus here. And Pete, anytime you want to come down, got some good spots for us.
Yes.
To my job, you know,
Yeah.
and but the campus is beautiful. I think we rival a lot of Division I schools, and it's impressive. Great group of people to work with, and you know, it's definitely one of the, if not the best sports academy in the world.
Well, I'm definitely gonna take you up on that. I'll be down there. That'll be a lot of fun. What's the kids stay there? They go to school there. They train there. It's pretty much they're living there, right, for 4 years.
They're here up to 5 years. We have 8th graders as well. Yeah, it's very rigorous academically. They're held accountable, and they go to school. We have it flipped. Half of our teams go practice in the morning and then attend school in the afternoon. The other half goes in the afternoon, goes to school in the afternoon. I'm sorry, does their academic work in the morning, and then comes out on the fields in the afternoon. So from APD, you know, the strength program, nutrition, mental training, it's the full package. It's again something that you know, we had at the University of Pittsburgh. Wow. And all the major colleges and universities and probably pro sports teams have as well. We're providing this to high school students from across the world. So if there's anybody listening in Japan, konnichiwa.
There you go. Great baseball country.
Absolutely. I've had the Koreans, we have Dominicans, Venezuelans. We had Jerry, of course, the name Jerry. I'll remember it. He's the chief operating officer, Perez, Jerry Perez, Great Britain baseball. His son was on my team. So we get kids from all over the world. And it's kind of neat because, again, communicating with them and trying to show the respect of being able to do it in bits and pieces, of course,
Sure.
in their native tongue is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Pretty
it is.
cool.
I like that. What's your day? What does it look like daily for you? So take us through the routine,
Sure.
with practice and whatever. I know they do the nutritional, the mental training with different people. But what about the baseball side, the development?
So again, if you're morning delivery, you're out on the field at 8:15, and there will be two coaches working with you. There may be a specialty coach, whether it be pitching, infield, outfield, but you'll have the two coaches, and you go through your morning practice, usually about 2:15, 2.5 hours, and then you go to lunch, and then you go to your classes, and then 3 to 4 times per week, they'll hit the weight room and or work in the mental training or nutrition, etc.
Nice.
So every aspect of the academy is integrated. So everything enhances the next piece, in terms of development. And it's the flip with afternoon delivery. Guys go to class in the morning, go to lunch, come out on the fields, do their training. The calendar is first semester is team concepts, identifying it, swing inhibitors, anything defensively, arm deficiencies, anything mechanical, and do individual work to try and improve that, along with strength and conditioning. Then we ramp it down a little bit, heading into the end of the year. And then once they get back on campus, since we are an academy, we can start right away. I know a lot of northern schools in the States, they can't start till the 1st of March, et cetera, which I don't understand why, because you can't get an arm ready for pitching, in 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
So once they get back, we jump into preseason preparation. And then, we start our games, and that goes through the end of April. Then we have an Ascender series, which all of the teams kind of play in-house, play each other. And then we have our end of the year banquet, which is a really great event. And then they head into finals, graduation, and then they go home for the summer.
Awesome, man. That sounds fantastic. What a great experience. 4 or 5 years there. One of the things we talk about on the show a lot, there's a common denominator worldwide, some of the best programs in the world. Now, obviously the US, with 26 million amateur players, you're going to have a lot of great players. So I'm not going to even include the US in this yet. But one of the common denominators, I'm going to get your opinion on this with the academy there, is people have a misconception, especially with younger kids, whether it be high school and down. They think that the more games you play, the better you're going to get. Now, I understand the game experience. I get that part. I think we all get it. Eventually, you got to have game experience, right? The instincts, and all that. But at the same time, what we found is the majority of the baseball countries that have less players, but are at the top internationally, they practice more than they play. Now, somebody might say, well, but the Cubans are great weather. They play all year round. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. If the Cubans play 100 games, they practice 200 times. What's your philosophy there at the academy on this? Because we see it as a positive. And what's happening in the States is we're playing a lot of games at young levels, at 10, 11, 12, and we're forgetting about the fundamentals and forgetting about the practices. What's your opinion there?
I'm 100% in agreement with you. The elements that we talked about, this is just personally, and then obviously the academy approaches it the same way. It's about development. It's about being the best conditioned, mentally, physically, emotionally athlete that you could be. That takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of effort. And there's no shortcuts to that. So it's either you're doing it because the road of where you want to go, quite frankly, is the same for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you work a little harder, you may get there a little quicker. You don't work as hard, it's going to take you longer to get there. But practice, I mean, you can isolate and do so much in practice in terms of reps, focusing on certain aspects of whatever you're working on. Those are the things that when you are trying to develop a player, identify strengths and weaknesses, solidify the strengths, improve the weaknesses. If a kid is just flat out hits, okay, so he's a pole guy, but he hits. All right, well, I tell you what, let's work a little bit on, when he's seeing a 87-mile-an-hour slider, let's work on going opposite way. Or a kid that just picks it as a good throw. Maybe needs some work on, his first movement, backhand side or forehand side, glove side. So there's always something to work on. And again, as coaches, we have to identify those areas and then to put a program together that's going to kind of put them on that track and keep pushing them in a positive direction. Because as you could play 100 games a year, like you mentioned, and you only get 3 or 4 pitches a game that are drivable. So what good is that going to do you? Yeah, you're getting at bats, but at the end of the day, it's I'm not sure that's the ticket. The other thing is, Pete, that I've seen is having an understanding of how to play the game of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many times do you see in a summer game a sacrifice bunt, a push bunt, suicide squeeze, situational at bats? You're seeing guys that, and God bless them. I'm not disparaging that, or I'm just saying that learning how to look for that pitch on the outer third when you have a man on second, nobody out, and hitting a ground ball to second base. Guess what? You're 0 for 1, but it's a quality at bat for us.
Yes.
And taking a 2-strike approach and battling, you're not getting in here, making a physical adjustment. And, when you look at those things, those are mindsets, and a mindset happens in practice because you're repping it every day. When it comes to game time, we don't want you to think. We want you to go up there and react.
Yes.
And go do your thing. And if we're doing our job properly, they'll be prepared for that. But if somebody wants to, and I've seen it here, I've seen it at Pitt, I've seen it at Mercyhurst. The kid that has a boatload of talent but doesn't have the commitment to that development process. And sure, they're going to have some successes just because of the skill set that they have. But at the end of the day, it's the guy that has the skill set. He has a respect for the game and has a passionate work ethic, and won't settle until he gets better. Perfection never happens, right? They say, well, it's a perfect game. Well, a perfect game is, he struck everybody out and didn't throw a ball. That's
Right.
a perfect game, right? So we can strive for perfection, and I think that's great. But again, that's a result. The process is controlling what you control every day. I tell the kids down here, the 3 E's: energy, effort, enthusiasm. Those are things that don't need talent.
Mhm.
You do those things every day, and you bring that every day, you sleep good tonight. You look in that mirror and say, wow, I was kind of, you regressed as a player. You didn't get better. All right. So those are the things that I truly believe in. I think they should be a part of any coach's DNA, so to speak. And that's what is going to, those things are going to be the qualities that you see in your successful coaches. And you look at the Paul Maneris, you look at the, Tim Corbin's, Chris Lemonis, down at Mississippi State.
Mhm.
You look at Coach Bianco this past year. You look at those guys and you see passion. You see a sense of caring. There's accountability. And their teams take on that personality. And that is the type of impact you want to have, not only on the field, but off the field as well.
Yeah, and also congratulations. I probably should have said at the beginning of the show, and I missed it again. Boy, I got to prepare a little bit better. Ole Miss, great to see them win, and also have to mention Italian coach and Italian player as the MVP. That was great to see. Again, encourage always our Italian Americans anytime they do some great things. Hey, Joe, this has been great. And I appreciate the time. I know our staff appreciates the time here that you've given us and all our listeners. I want to finish it off with this because with the academy, sometimes in the show we talk about development, and one of the areas of the development that probably is at the top in some ways is vision, because without vision, I don't know how you accomplish any skills. Tell us a little bit about what you guys do there at the IMG Academy when it comes to vision. Is there anything particular?
Well, I will tell you this, and this will summarize it. If the technology is out there,
You got
we
it.
have it.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know there's a lot of things that they do. Again, you look at the support staff that is at the academy, in every piece of it. It's quality. It's people that are dedicated to what they're doing. And it's a environment. It's a culture of trying to develop student athletes in all aspects and prepare them to go on to a 4-year career or a professional career in their sport. And again, their respective careers after college. It's a special place. There's no doubt. Dan Simons, who is our baseball director, I knew Dan from his days at Miami of Ohio. Our teams competed against each other, and I was fortunate to happen to be in this area I had a second home down here, and that's where we landed, and here we are. We're still here today, about 10 miles away.
Nice. And I'll tell you what, you mentioned you sent out the invitation. I will be there. And by the way, I just remembered I'll be in Florida September 7th to the 19th for the World Championships 18U, which is the World Baseball Softball Confederation event. It's the best 18-year-olds in the world. So we'll be down there and definitely coming to visit.
Beautiful, Pete. I'd appreciate it. And I can't thank you enough for your time. I hope this was a benefit in some way to whoever is watching or listening. My information is listed on the IMG website. Feel free to reach out to me. I may not get back to you immediately, but if somebody addresses something personally to me, I promise you I'll do my best to get back to you.
Fantastic. Joe, let me tell you, this was awesome. We will take everything, all the on our show notes. We'll put the IMG, we'll put all your information there, how people can reach you. Again, special thanks to Joe Jordano, IMG Academy. Special thanks to Brian Crock, our producer with the Lineup Media Group, and also ESPN Honolulu and all our good friends around the world. Thanks for sharing the show. Keep listening, and anything you need, caliendo19gmail.com. Email us and we will follow up. Listen, everybody, stay healthy, stay safe. God bless you, and we'll see you on the next show.
Que aloha.